Okay, here we go. In Chicago used to be a nightclub called E2's. And unfortunately, something bad had happened to this nightclub that the owner had to shut it down. And you can kind of look it up if you choose to do so. So the owner of E2's had to sell it to another nightclub owner. And the nightclub owner said, okay. So he bought E2's and he changed the name from E2's to the Click. And not only did he change the names, he put in new doors, he put in new windows, he put in maybe some new bathrooms and whatnot. And I was listening to people talk when it was time to open. And people were so fascinated by this new name of this building called the Click. I was hearing them talking about, oh, this is way better than E2's. They got new doors, new windows, new bathrooms, new lighting, and all of that. And I was saying to myself, like, wow, this is still the same old building. It's still the same old brick and mortar building. He just changed the name, and it got me to thinking about some things. And this was happening during the 80s. So this is what I'm talking about right now today, like right in front of you, is that the new improved, should I say, the new improved from E2s to the Click, or whatever the case you want to call it, right? But this is what the Greeks have done. What you are looking at is the manifestation of the aftermath of the Greeks, right? Now, I'm not going to give everything away. In due time, I'm going to reveal what's been really on my mind. But this is the aftermath of what you're looking at. The synthetic uh, thing that came out of the Old Testament. You know how you squeeze oranges and you get orange juice? This is what you are looking at. So when the Greeks came, they Hellenized everything because they felt that were the super being, because within every culture there was a Greek. And so when they came across the Old Testament, they was fascinated by it. They were saying to themselves, like, where's the statue at? Where is this God at? They was like, well, obviously you're doing it wrong because we can't see it. So therefore, you know what, we're gonna make a Greek god for you, because you're doing it wrong. So matter of fact, get in the back, we're gonna show you because we are the ultimate Greeks. And this is what they have done. So what I want to do is to take you down the yellow brick road, just a little bit of history, because I know you guys got things to do. So, if you like what you're hearing thus far, please like, share, subscribe, and donate. It would be greatly appreciated. So here, I want to show you this part right here. All right. Now, what happened between the Old and the New Testament, right? You can go here and you can kind of indulge yourself, try to get into information, but we're just going to go down the yellow brick road just a little bit. All right. So what has happened between the Old Testament and the New Testament was the Greeks. But nobody don't want to talk about it, and they call it the silent period. But I'm not going to make it silent. I'm going to talk about it to get you guys and girls to understand what really happened. Now, during this time right here, the silent period, you have the Persians during this time. Now, you guys and girls saw the movie 300, right? The Persians came and Xerxes came, was fighting the Greeks against Leonidas and whatnot. But there was something they did not talk about in the movie. There was a little tribe called Judah, right? Judah was in the back with them when they beat the Babylonians. So the word came to the Persians, whatnot. The Most High told him, say, hey, look, send my people home. So the Most High told him to send his people home, which was Ezra and a couple of tribes of Judah and the Levites, right? And so they went home back to Jerusalem. But little do we know, or they haven't said that, but the Assyrians, had brought them over there. First it was the Assyrian, the Babylonian, then the Persians, right? But the Assyrians had sent priests back to Jerusalem to teach them how to be Judean. So when Ezra and them got back, because Xerxes sent them home, they had problems there. You had copycats back there who was acting like they was from the tribe of Judea. They had all the bells and whistles like them, acting like them, and Ezra was like saying, hey, look, y'all ain't got nothing to do with us. They were like, yes, we do. But you got to say to yourself, these people was having kids, babies, believing that they was of the tribe of Judah because of what the Assyrians sent priests over there to teach these people. So you got Ezra was dealing with all types of problems during this time of this movie, just per se, but they don't show this within the movie 300. Now, during this time, well, should I say after this time, Okay, here comes the uh here come Alexander the Great, right? The Greeks, right here. Here come the Greeks. So Alexander the Great come and he smashed the Persians, as you can see right there. He conquered the Persians, and this is when the Hellenistic period coming in, and they is trans assimilating all these people within to the Greek manifestation, and they behaving like Greeks. They taking in their Greek gods, their ideology, their mannerism, their culture, and everything. Everything is being assimilated like the board. Now, Daniel talked about that, right? Daniel talked about when the Greeks was coming. He told him, the Babylonian king, when he was there, saying, hey, look, pretty much, look, your time is for a time. And he was the Babylonian king. He was grateful for that because Daniel gave him the prophetic insight of what was happening. And he was saying, this is what was going to happen. But here, I want you guys and girls to see this part right here. Here's 4 generals, his 4 kingdoms, but should not stand because Alexander, he passed away at this time. Then his 4 generals popped up. And he said right here, I want you to look at this. And in the later times of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to fore, this right here, these new transgressors are the Romans. A king of fierce continence and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own. So imagine a king not having a power of himself. It's more of a puppet. This right here is talking about these Idumeans when they became the so-called king of the Jews, because the Romans liked them because of the revolts and this and that the other. This is when the Idumeans kicked in right here. This was a king. He was the first one, right? But not by his power. The only power he had was from the Romans. This is what Daniel was talking about, and this is the last of it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the last of it here. So that was the last of it. So you got to say to yourself, if you read the book of Daniel, I highly recommend that you do right here. And he was talking about this Edomite here. He was a puppet, pretty much, of the Romans. And whatever he had no power or whatnot, but he was the Romans. They named him king of the Jews at this time. So you had the Jews, which was the converts, and then you had the Judean people at that time. All right. And it's a long story with that. I don't want to go down that road, but we're going to stay where we at today with this, the Hellenistic period and what had happened between these two times. As a matter of fact, this was taking place right now. Okay. When the Edomites was named king of Judean, or which the Jewish people were called at the time, a lot of fascinating things has corrupted themselves, and the real Judean people, they pretty much got pushed to the back, and that's exactly what has happened. And something fascinating has happened that, I really want to say it, but I'm trying to word it in a way that I don't want to give it away. That New Testament is something else, And like I said before, if you look back to that blog right there, it was nothing but the Old Testament. And they gather all types of information, just like orange juice, just like an orange. You know how you squeeze and you get orange juice and whatnot. That's what they did, because you must understand, they didn't have any TV back then. They didn't have any internet, no satellites, nothing of that. Only thing they had was the entertainment of the mind, to get theater out of it, and everybody wanted to get the right thing out of it. You know what I mean? So within this thing that everybody was trying to get, people was coming to see which one, who had the original. But really, they pretty much just kicked the Old Testament out of the way, except for the originals. So people wanted the new thing, just like the clique. They was fascinated. So the new thing was different sects, different cults, different beliefs. Who can really throw themselves overboard? Who can really be believable? You get what I'm saying? Who can become that, what it is? like a good show. When you go to the movies and whatnot, and people get Oscars. You could be like, oh, I was really into that Oscar, right? I mean, I'm really into that actor or actresses when they did this part. They really gravitated to me. They really felt me inside. They really believed in me, and I felt their pain, their passion when they on this big screen and they took you in, right? You really believed every word of you was hanging on every word, every thought, and every belief. And then you say to your girl or your boyfriend, like, look, they believe me. That's just like me. Remember we had this conversation before, and they captivated you, and you captivated them, and you believe, and you hugged each other, then you crying, and then you like, oh my God, they believe me. I wish I was there. They know me. They must have saw me before. They took all my emotion, all my gifts and all my pain, and they understood me. And yes, you then they had an orgasm, right? And that's what it is back then. That's what it was, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. Believing is seeing, and that's what they did. Theater, the ultimate theater, the Greeks, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo, and all that good stuff. They captivated you so much so that you was ready to die for it. And that, I will leave you right there with that.